everybody. Welcome back to the Fumble Live. We have a lot of news to get into today, so let's not waste any time. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, tap the bell for notifications, give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and leave a comment below. Here's the Fumble Squad. I'm Devin Howard. You can find me on Instagram as @DevinHoward. Chris?
It's your boy Chris. You can find me everywhere at CK2K.
Happy hump day, you guys. It's Jackie Ray. You can follow me on all things social media at JRayTheFanatic.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your girl, Britt. You can follow me on all social media at @IamBrittJohnson.
Chris, I like how whenever I go to you, it always seems like you're surprised.
I know, right?
It's like, are you here, Chris? Because Chris will be like, oh, me next? Like, how long have we been doing this?
Well, it's just... Look, I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's probably because he got the blurry plague today. He got the blurry plague. At least on my end.
Behind for me.
Did get the
No, me too.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's always got to be one of us. It's always got to be one of us. Usually it's Britt.
Me, so I'm glad to pass that off to y'all.
I know you got a conspiracy theory today, Chris, and post up, because usually it's the one with the conspiracies.
Which is usually me.
No comment.
Right.
I think I might have a conspiracy theory. We're going to get into this news. I think we all might have a conspiracy theory about what I'm getting into right now. So this Bubba Wallace, the FBI reportedly concluded yesterday that no hate crime was committed in their investigation into the noose that was found in Bubba's garage. After their investigation, they released a statement saying, quote, the investigation revealed evidence, including authentic video confirmed by NASCAR. The noose found in garage number 4 was in that garage as early as October 2019. Nobody could have known Mr. Wallace would be assigned to garage number 4 last week. The decision to not pursue federal charges is proper after reviewing all available facts and federal laws. NASCAR released a similar statement reiterating the same facts, and they concluded their statement writing, quote, we remain steadfast in our commitment to providing a welcoming and inclusive environment for all who love racing. Steve Phelps also had a teleconference call and said this is the best result we could hope for. It is fantastic to hear from the FBI definitively that this is not a hate crime. And he also said that they'd be looking into why the rope was fashioned in that way last year. So Bubba responded to this news, and he said that he is relieved that he's not the target of a hate crime, but he also thinks that the fact that it was ever fashioned into a noose knot is alarming. He also is upset that people think he fabricated the whole thing, or that people are trying to say that this was all, made up and that he was in on it somehow. So I have a clip from I'll show you guys right now. Leo, if you could throw that up there for us.
It's still frustrating to know that people are always going to test you and always just going to try to debunk you, and that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around now from saying I'm a fake and all this stuff, and that I reported it when it was news that was brought to me. It was information that was brought to me that was already reported, and so I was just kind of following suit. But
so I feel for Bubba here, because we've seen in the aftermath since that noose was discovered, there are the people who rallied around him to support him, and then the people who were claiming that it was all fake. And then now I feel like those people maybe feel validated in their beliefs. I have mixed feelings about the whole thing. There are people who are criticizing NASCAR for jumping the gun and claiming it was a noose without verifying anything about it, so that they could make a show out of rallying around Bubba and aligning themselves with the Black Lives Matter movement. That was some of the things that I saw online. I also feel like I don't know, I had my skepticisms about this whole thing from the start regarding how NASCAR would respond to it. I don't know. I feel like if they can verify that the noose was there in October, why can't they verify why it was there or who put it there? I just still have a lot of questions. Britt, I want to go to you on this one. What was your first thought after hearing that this noose was not a hate crime, but that it had been there since October?
It was still a hate crime just because it wasn't against Bubba. Somebody still made that a noose at some point. So it is still, in some form or fashion, it is still a hate crime. Like, you don't go around just tying nooses, whether it's a joke or not. That's not a joke. It's not funny. I literally have been going typing stuff and then deleting it and reposting it again on social, because I am like literally still really upset about like this whole entire thing. And I'm sorry, but I'm not just going to go off what the FBI just like says in one thing. I don't trust the police all the time. I don't trust the FBI either. Sorry. Like, I'm not just going to go off of what they say and believe that everything that they say is just 100% true, because we know from history that that's not the case. They've lied about tons of stuff before. So I'm not just going to like, oh, well, this wasn't a hate crime. Yes, I do think it was a hate crime. And Bubba also spoke on the fact that he literally didn't see it. It was one of the people in his camp who was actually also African American, and he thought he was tripping when he first saw it. So he walked up and down the whole entire of every stall to make sure that that was the only one that was like that. Whether it's some magical coincidence or whether somebody knew it was there before and then they assign that stall to him, just like, oh yeah, this is going to be real good. Like, even though this was already here, I'm just going to make that his stall now because the noose is there. So that's where the black guy must go. Like, we don't know what happened in that situation, but to be clear, every single stall did not have it. They all had the same pool thing. It wasn't like that one just had like an old fashioned one and they had new ones. No, somebody tied that at some point like that. Like, and I don't care if it's like, and it is a sport that is predominantly white. And so maybe some guys did it as like, oh, this is going to be funny. Let's tie this in a noose, and then left it there a long time ago. And now Bubba has that same stall, but that's still a hate crime. It's still not cool. I don't like, and then of course, all these people, like you were saying, are going in on him. Like he tied it himself and tried to do this Jesse Smollett thing and all this kind of crap. Like, no, like he's now getting the most hate than anybody in the world. And I feel so terrible for Bubba because he's trying to like still stay positive and smile it off because he didn't find it. And in the sense of NASCAR, like not investigating it more before they announced stuff, like, I don't understand what happened there. Like, a bunch of people saw it. They looked at it. It looked like a noose to everybody, and everybody said they didn't see it before. So I don't understand what's going on with that either. That's a whole other conspiracy in and of itself. Like, why would they just go to Bubba, who saw it was, knowing now he's like, oh, this is like my family. Is my family at risk for something? Is somebody trying to kill us? Like, whatever, and putting all that on him without having some kind of investigation. So maybe I feel a way about what NASCAR's role in it is, but as far as Bubba is concerned, I don't think he had anything to do with it. As far as the fact that it is a noose, yes, it was a noose, and it was tied as a noose at some point.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Jackie, I want to go to you. Does something seem off to you about this, or are you ready to accept this news? Bubba was not the victim of a hate crime.
I mean, it's NASCAR, so I'm never, there's definitely some hate involved. I just don't know, you know, there's too many questions. If it was there since October, how come they just now saw it? You know, how is that even possible? Because if it's a pulley, you had to pull it at some point. So how you just now see that the pulley thing is fashioned in a noose. But I mean, I don't want to give any validity to people saying, oh, he did a Jesse Smollett thing. Because like I said yesterday, it's not outside the realm of possibilities for me because the timing was just a little too flawless for me. When he did his car, when he kind of spoke up before, why wasn't it found then? How are you in there for 30 days and it's not seen? And I said on another show yesterday that from a marketing standpoint, it's genius. Because when you see Black people who have never attended, never had any kind of concern for NASCAR at all, suddenly show up to a NASCAR race to support Bubba, you want to find a way to keep that momentum going. So like I said, it's not outside the realm of possibilities. Do I think Bubba himself was involved in it? No. Do I think it's possible that someone on his team was like, yo, let's cash in on this? All of a sudden I see people walking around with Bubba jackets. I know y'all barely just found out who Bubba was because I don't know nobody who actually watches NASCAR like that. So from a marketing standpoint, I think it's definitely a possibility. I don't understand if it was there since October. Again, if it was there since October, why was it there? That still needs to be addressed and then why did Bubba get assigned that stall? What is their protocol when you are assigning stalls? Do you just, because I know I would want to make sure that nothing was left behind from whoever, you know? So does nobody from NASCAR inspect these stalls before they're reassigned? And if it was inspected, who didn't see the noose? So there's just too many questions for me to give anyone a complete pass on this situation, including NASCAR, because like I said, if they assigned him this stall and that noose was in there, then they bear some of that responsibility. So I don't know what happened. I know everything is on the table for me right now. Everything's possible for me right now.
All right. Okay, Chris, moving to you for this last question. This has obviously been an emotional time for Bubba, but seeing everybody come together in the way that they did was really, really uplifting. How do you think that he's feeling about this latest update? We obviously know that he's frustrated that people are trying to debunk him, but what else do you think is going through his mind?
Well, just by going off of what he said, I'm sure he's probably relieved. At least if he's being real with this whole thing, and and it really was presented to him the way he's said it's been presented to him. I'm sure he's relieved because it might not be as much of a threat to him as it might have initially looked. But my thing is, I don't even know if he should even be thinking that way, because I echo everything that Jackie said. Like this whole thing to me raised more questions that I already had than I have opinion at this point, because there's just so much. There's so much of it doesn't make any sense, and like Britt said, regardless of what it was and regardless of the placement in garage and stuff like that, the fact of the matter was it was still tied into a noose and it was shaped as a noose. So like regardless of whatever it may be, I just have way more questions on it. So I mean, I'm sure I'm not going to say he pulled a Justice Smith. I don't think that that's the case. I'm sure that the way he's presented it, saying that he's got the information from his team and stuff like that. But my pessimistic mind went straight to marketing as well. I'm like here thinking whether it's the team or whether it's NASCAR using this as a way to continue to get the cash flow, get the eyes of us to come and watch the sport. That's another thought that's in my head. So just for strictly to answer that question for Bubba Wallace, I'm going to take what he said, and I think that that's probably the best way to think of it is, if this is what the FBI is saying, then his he could probably be a little bit more at ease on the fact that this probably wasn't so much a death threat. But I don't really feel like that means that this is still a good situation.
Britt, you want to add something?
Yeah, I just have a question for you guys, because you guys are saying like a marketing thing, but if it was already confirmed that the noose was there since October, how is it marketing to him that he was placed in that stall? Like, I don't understand.
So like I said, I'm not
after the fact, but since it was made in October, like what?
So like, like I said, marketing? I'm not 100% buying that it was there since October, because that would have to mean that they were in this stall for 30 days and didn't see it. I'm not entirely buying that. So
they were just at Indy 500 last week of May, and they just got the stalls have been set up, but they just got there. His people just got there for Talladega or whatever. Talladega's in Alabama, so that's a totally different state. Like he just raced in the Indy 500 like 2 weeks ago.
Right, but so they didn't see it at any time, because you still have to go and set up the stall. It's not like you just show, your team goes and sets it up. Like I said, I'm not buying the October thing. It's possible, but again, like I said, if it was in there, then how does NASCAR not do any inspections? Did they not see it? How do you skip over this?
Gotta be
so
right.
I'm not buying the October thing.
They've released pictures from other races where you can see it hanging there. Like if you literally Google it, I just checked it out. Like there's pictures and it's literally sitting there in the corner of some other guy that's racing like last year. So I don't know. Like
so then if the news has been there since last year,
I'm gonna be the one that's gonna be like, oh, a black guy's trying to. We don't need to pretend.
See, but that doesn't make sense to me. If you're saying, okay, yeah, if you look at pictures from last year and it was there, nobody else said anything. If it's blatantly in pictures that we could have, nobody didn't raise no red flags for nobody. I don't know. This don't smell right to me. I'm sorry.
There's a bunch of guys that were okay with the Confederate flag being there. They did not care about a noose being there, so they didn't realize it. People are blind to stuff that doesn't affect them. So if it's not something that bothers you or affects you or is something that means something negative to you, sometimes you just don't realize it.
So there's clearly a lot of
something's off on this one though. Yeah, for me, it's still just off. because I get what you're saying, but trust and believe, if I saw as a black person, just happened to be looking through NASCAR photos and I see a photo of a noose, I mean, somebody saw it. Somebody would have had to say something. Somebody from his team. And if it's been there for that long, again, I just don't understand how this came. This does not make an ounce of sense to me in any way, shape, or form. It just doesn't.
I'm sure we'll be touching on this throughout the week and probably into next week as well. Maybe we'll get some more answers. But for now, let's move on into our next story. This is about the Lakers. J.R. Smith could be a member of the Lakers when the NBA season starts in July. According to Woj, the veteran free agent has, quote, emerged as a leading candidate to replace Avery Bradley on the Lakers roster. Brad Turner of the LA Times also added that J.R. has been working out in LA with a few Lakers players. So Avery announced yesterday that he wouldn't be joining the Lakers in Orlando because of health concerns with his son. I guess he has some respiratory issues, and they didn't think that he'd be cleared to end the bubble with his family. Avery released a statement that emphasized his commitment to his teammates, but that ultimately he plays basketball for his family. And he also added that he'll use this time away to take care of his family, but also, quote, focus on the formation of projects to help strengthen my communities. I respect his decision. I think that's a good reason to not go to Orlando. Chris, I want to go to you first on this one. How do you think they'll go about replacing what Avery provided? And is J.R. Smith going to be enough?
Well, for the initial J.R. Smith thing, if he ends up being the one that replaces him, I want to put that LeBron James meme when he wins his first championship. It's about damn time kind of thing. But no, to be honest, he just applies more offense. To me, it doesn't make sense. As much as I love Earl, I feel like they should have done it the first time rather than having now him and Dion Waiters on the team, because Avery Bradley brought the defensive pressure to that team. He was the defensive anchor for that team, as well as in his very last game before the season was postponed. He has the ability to put the ball in the hole when needed. So I don't know. I feel like it's more of a due diligence signing than a signing that really makes sense in my opinion, because now you got both JR and Dion Waiters on the same team, and that's just a meme party waiting to happen. So I don't know, but
right.
Personally, that's the basketball thoughts. But personally, for me, I'm just glad to see my boy Earl back in basketball. So I'm happy about it.
Chris, you mentioned this meme party. So, Jackie, my question for you was, do you think this is just another meme moment waiting to happen? And is there anybody else that you can think of off the top of your head that you'd rather see in that spot?
Nope, because as much as I'm giggling, I've been telling everybody as soon as I knew about this Bradley thing, I'm like, JR, where you at, baby? I kind of just knew that was just a thing, but it is one of those things where you're like, please, God, don't let this be another, why are you doing meme? So I was like, I don't know. I'm happy about it. I agree 100% with Chris. It's kind of redundant when you think about him and Dion Waiters on the same team. But, I'm a big fan of chemistry as well. And we know that him and LeBron already have that. JR is going to fit in wherever he fits in. So he's not going to add he's going to gel just fine. Let's just hope that, I don't know what I want to say about JR. I don't know if I want to say I hope he's been drinking Hennessy or he hasn't been drinking Hennessy. Whatever he needs to do to be right, I hope that's what he's doing. So I'm excited to see him back, though, for real.
Okay, and then Britt, we got to breeze through this last story, but I just want to ask you really quickly, do you think that teams should be concerned that their players may opt out, or do you think it only really matters if it's like a marquee player who decides to forego the Orlando bubble?
I don't think a lot of players are going to really opt out. I think the issue is going to be now players getting coronavirus right before Malcolm Brogdon just announced literally right before the show started that he tested positive for it. Yeah. They tested a lot of the players yesterday. So a lot of those results are going to be coming back today. So I think that's what teams are most worried about, not having certain guys available once training camp does start on July 11th. And that's what I think is most. As far as losing Avery Bradley, that was super key, especially against my Clippers. He played so well against the Clippers. He had 24 points last time they played the Clippers, and he was one of the key people to stop my Clippers, and it's been hard for the Lakers to try to find somebody to get into a rotation that can deal with my Clippers, because my Clippers are beasts. on both sides of the court, especially defensively. So I think he was key in that, and losing him, I think, is going to be a big deal, especially when it comes to what I think is going to be the Western Conference.
Ooh, Brit froze for me. Anyone else?
Okay, yeah, I thought it was me. I was like, oh man, here I go again.
This is the end.
No, okay. Shoot. Well, Britt, hopefully she'll come back soon, but we can't hear her for now. So let's move on into the final need to know news story. Washington will remove George Preston Marshall's name from its Ring of Fame. He helped found the franchise, which was the Boston Braves in 1932, and was the owner until 1969. Under his leadership, Washington was the last NFL team to integrate when Mitchell from the Cleveland Browns in 1962. And then a monument to Marshall was recently removed outside the team's former stadium. And this wasn't a decision that was made by the team. There have been calls for years for Washington to distance itself from Marshall, but the current protests were the final straw. Marshall was deeply resistant to integrating the team and only did so when he received heavy criticism from the Washington Post and the Kennedy administration, which said the team wouldn't be able to use the stadium if they didn't diversify their roster. He was also known for making mandatory comments about signing black players. So cool, good move, I guess. But what about the team name? That's what I want to know. We've got this racist team name. Yeah, right. Like, how long is it going to take for them to change that? So, Chris, let's go to you really quickly. Do you think that Washington's next move will be to change their team name, or is that still a ways away?
Yeah, for those who do not know, I've done acting, I've done improv, and the number one rule in improv is yes and. So to me, this is definitely a yes and. Yes to getting rid of that statue and get rid of the damn name. So yes, I hope I can't. That's the thing for me and for us. I'm sure I can speak for all three of us here. Yes, that should have been the first thing that should have gone through. They should have been talking about a new name for Washington's team, but. Talking football, talking about the realism of what's going to go on with this organization. Hopefully, that is the next thing that happens. But I can't confidently say that. Yes, I think that they will do that next. So, me strictly, yes, I hope that's what comes next. But we'll see what happens.
It's just funny because it's like putting a Band-Aid over a big issue. Like, cool.
Saying.
So you remove the statue, or you remove the name, but what about the like glaringly obvious racism in the team name in general? So Jackie, I want to go to you. Is this a step towards progress? I don't even want to say that this is progress. It's a step towards progress for Washington. But do you think that their efforts to stop glorifying their racist former owner is overshadowed by the fact that their team name is still offensive?
I agree with Chris. I mean, it's to me, it's more of a pacifying move than it is a strong move. I mean, Dan Snyder has said emphatically that he will never change the name. I actually saw him. There was a group of Native Americans protesting. This was years ago. I think I was still living in Denver at the time, and they were protesting, and he came out and said, I will never change the name, and like turned around and walked off. Like, he was emphatic about it. And, and there was a time where I was like, okay, maybe he shouldn't change the name. As when you grow up in a football family like I have, you come to appreciate certain rivalries, Dallas and Washington being one of them. And so it's like the Cowboys and the Indians kind of thing. And then as you grow and you start reading and you like, this is super offensive. You know what I mean? And there's the ref, forgive me because I can't remember his name. He would never even officiate Washington games because he refused to officiate when they had that racist name. So when you learn about people like him and then you start to read and then you listen, that's the key to everything. You listen to people who say, hey, this is offensive to me and this is why. And then you still come out and you say, I will never change the name. To me, that you're putting your feet in the sand and saying, hey, I'm just going to be racist for the rest of my life. I don't care what y'all think. So him doing this, I don't even think it was him doing it. I think somebody else was saying, hey, they're going to keep coming for us in this name. Let's do this. Maybe they'll stand down a little bit. I don't think there is any sincerity in it at all, though.
Okay, Britt, welcome back. We lost you there for a second. So quickly, we're just talking about Washington and how they decided to remove the statue of their former owner, George Preston Marshall, because he was an obvious known racist, not a good guy. So are you willing to recognize Washington for this move, or do you think that nothing they do matters until they change their name?
We'll recognize it as one step of the giant thing that needs to happen, which is changing the name. And I don't understand why they're like, this needs to happen. I don't know how many petitions or how much we can protest. And to Jackie's point with the ref, there's been several commentators that have came out saying too, like, when I report on this team, I am not saying the name. Like, and it's been guys that do Sunday night football or Thursday night football, like the big games, and they refuse to say that name even on those stages. And still, they have not decided to change the name. I remember going to a Cowboys and Washington game. It was like last game of the season, so it was around New Year's Eve, and we had went out there for the game, and there were still, it was probably like 4 or 5 years ago, people were out there protesting about it, and they do it all the time, and still nothing's been done. So I don't know what we need to do to get this change to happen, but it needs to happen.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The fact that they're so resistant to it is like mind-blowing. Anyway, you guys, that wraps up Need to Know News. So Chris, take it away.
Yes, guys, forgive me from a camera today. Internet is battling. It's a Chris versus internet battle today, so I apologize. Oh, well, Britt too, I guess. So I guess I'm joining the fight with Britt over here. But it's time for Post Up. With your boy Chris, Quarantine Edition. Or which the fuzzy edition is what it is. So I apologize. But anyways, yes, we got some things to talk about today. And we haven't talked about Kuzma much lately, but I would say Kuzma and Perkins are slowly becoming the post-up MVPs. And like I just said, we haven't talked about Kuz lately, so that means we're going to talk about Kendrick Perkins. Now, Kendrick Perkins was caught, okay? This man, I don't know if he just cannot get a grasp of Twitter or if ESPN is just, they're just strict when it comes to whatever Perkins says on Twitter, but this man was caught changing up or flip-flopping his statement when it came to the Avery Bradley news. Now, when the news came out that Avery Bradley wasn't going to be joining the team in Orlando and J.R. Smith was the leader to hopefully possibly replace him for the team, Kendrick Perkins initially tweeted out this, where he said, "Swish better lace those MFs up. I respect my brother Avery on his decision, but I don't agree with him." And I can't. Before we change this, I want you guys to look at Woj's timestamp. You see, this was posted 30 minutes ago, right? Now we go to an updated version of this tweet right here, and it's still same Kendrick Perkins. 30 minutes later, it's about a very similar tweet, but it's wordly a little different. It's this one says, "JR better go lace them FFs up. I respect Avery's decision to spend time with his family and their safety." There's a blatant little flip-flop going on right there. So here's my problem. Like, I think, and we talk on this show with a lot of different ranging reasons, but I always believe that your first thought, the first thing that came out your mouth is your real feelings. So obviously, I don't know if ESPN came out and quick like, "No, Kendrick, no," or something came out, or he realized like, "Dang, I shouldn't have put that," and he changed it up. But regardless of the fact, he flip-flopped a little bit with his tweet going after before he was saying he doesn't agree with Avery Bradley, or maybe within the 3 minutes he educated himself and understood the situation with Avery Bradley and said, "Oh, wait, I don't know." But I want to quickly go to you, Jackie. We can talk about Kendrick Perkins a lot here. What do you think went on in the mind of Kendrick Perkins in those 3 minutes to change from his initial statement to the second tweet that we just read?
I think what happened is what happens to a lot of our viewers here on the Fumble. They just read the headlines, and he probably saw Avery's not going to play, and he was like, "Oh, I disagree because of this, that." And then he actually read it and was like, "Oh, damn, it's because of his kid. Let me go back and fix it." You gotta read the whole thing. You can't just read the headlines. I think that's what happened, honestly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's Kendrick Perkins. It could be something.
That's true. That's the thing. That's why I asked you, because there's so many reasons when it comes to Kendrick Perkins. Because that's probably the answer, but it might not be because it's Kendrick Perkins. But who knows? But yeah, on Weekend Zone, if you guys have not been watching Weekend Zone, we have a name for people like you that are only going to, by the title and you don't actually watch what's going on. We call you a title reader because you honestly don't even know what you're actually talking about. You're title reader. See, nah. Not listening.
See, now we can have Kendrick Perkins on and say, "Welcome, our first title reader, Kendrick Perkins."
Yes. Yes, I think that would be hilarious. First party such a dope. Yes, that'd be awesome. On to the next one. Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, who we've talked more so about a lot of the messy ending between him and the Warriors. You know, the relationship between him and Steph wasn't great, or he had felt some type of way with the Warriors fans because they loved Steph Curry more than they loved him, and rah 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 rah. But in a recent podcast that he was on, he actually had a lot of great things to say about some of his old teammates and what he learned from his time with the Golden State Warriors. So, Kevin Durant, go ahead and say what you have to say about your old teammates.
That little stuff I just tried to take from each and every one of those defenders I play with. So, I took my, I learned a lot from watching guys like Andre Iguodala, how he used his hands, in the paint when guys were going up to shoot. I watched Draymond when he would, the timing and when he would leave somebody on the perimeter, go help on the post, and that little stuff I just tried to take from each and every one of those defenders I play with.
Yeah, great. Love that. Those are two great defenders that were definitely playing for, Draymond still, but Iggy not so much, playing for the Warriors. But here's my little bit of shade. I love how he specified the defense, and he mentioned those two players, but you didn't learn no offense from Steph Curry, who's possibly one of the better shooters in league history. You didn't learn nothing from him, or you just trying nothing? All right, I'm just going to put that right there, and I'm gonna move on to the next one. That's just me causing shade. I'm sorry, KD. Moving on to the next one. Sticking within the Warriors, Draymond Green, who is out here sounding more like Jackie Ray than Draymond Green, even though we know that Draymond Green is really close with LeBron James, but may not show on the court. Outside the court, they're homies, both represented by Clutch and rah rah rah. But with everything going on with the More Than a Vote initiative going on right now, Draymond Green is also a part of that, and he is speaking up on that initiative, and he was doing that so while he was on ESPN, and he also slid in a little nomination for a certain King James to not just be the king of basketball, but possibly be the president of the United States. Draymond, what you saying, man? Here's a video.
As a competitor, I enjoy playing against me. You enjoy playing against the best, but what he's done off the court and the initiatives that he's been able to lead. And this is just another example of that. I have the utmost respect for him. Hopefully he run for president one day.
Amen. Go ahead, Draymond. Go ahead.
So
let me go out here and get me some Draymond paraphernalia.
I'm a Draymond fan.
I mean, compared to what we got, are you really upset with that idea? Compared to you would be better off if I ran at this point. So you can't be mad if LeBron runs.
It's like we're at a point now where you can't even rule anybody out. When we got a dude that was a reality TV star, yes, also he had money on it. I get that, but this dude was a reality TV star, and he is now our president. Regardless if we want to call him that or not, in the history books, he is our president of the United States for at least hopefully just one term, and. So it's not out of the realm of possibility to see LeBron James run for president. So, Devin, I'm coming to you first, okay? I know we got Jack in the screen, but let me talk to Devin real quick. Devin, okay, we talked about, Trump and all that stuff, but with everything seriously, LeBron James has done a lot of good within the world outside of just basketball. Do you really think that this is something that he would possibly consider after his time in basketball?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, we've seen LeBron do a bunch of different stuff outside of basketball. I mean, he's fully immersed himself in the world of entertainment. He does all of his charitable and philanthropic work. I guess I wouldn't put it past him to get involved in politics. And you know what? He would definitely have my vote. I would love it.
Yeah, I'd be his campaign manager.
Jackie, we know. I'm surprised you're just stunting yourself as the campaign manager. You're not going to be in the office. You ain't going to be the with the ones that goes on there that says all the messages for LeBron.
I'm going to be Olivia Pope. I'm going to be his Olivia Pope. So minus the sleeping around, y'all. Minus the sleeping around. No. Minus the sleeping around.
Look, man, nothing.
Because if that's the case, I'd have to sleep with the Secretary of Defense too. Who's going to be the Secretary of Defense? JR
Smith.
Maybe.
JR.
Probably J.R. Smith. But look, I'm not ruling anything out. We'll see what happens. I'm not putting any athlete in the president's chair anymore because the one person I thought was going to be our president, I learned a little bit more about him this summer, and that was Drew Brees. So I don't know what to believe anymore with athletes becoming presidents. Right. So moving on to this next one. Russell Westbrook. The NBA is one of the, thanks to Allen Iverson, the pioneer, to show that you can be who you want to be who you truly are in any way, shape, or form of the word, clothing wise, et cetera. But one of the big things the biggest trends that Allen Iverson started within the NBA was tattoos. And you can see now, especially talking about J.R. Smith, Mr. 5,000 tattoos himself, now we see it's a more common thing to see NBA players with tattoos on their body. That being said, there's also players that choose to not have tattoos, and Russell Westbrook was one of those few players until now. He actually got a really dope matching tattoo with wifey Nina, and it was a tattoo that he got on his arm. They both got on the arm, as you see right there. And the tattoo was a combination of all three of his kids, all in cursive or whatever you want to call that font of writing. And it says Nono, Jojo, and Sky, and they both got magic tattoos for that. So if you ask me, that's a dope first tattoo. Shout out to Russ and shout out to Nina for that. I love that a lot. So there it is. He's tatted. He's in the club, I guess. But going back to LeBron James. Now, LeBron James spoke out on Twitter yesterday because of I'm assuming it was because of the debacle that happened in Kentucky. Now, there's so many things. Just Google it. Go on Twitter, and you can see the trash primary poll that happened in Kentucky from the lack of places to go to vote from. Look it up. But that being said, LeBron James had a lot to say on, pushing. I mean, we talked about the More Than the Vote initiative that he is pushing right now. And he had a lot to say to hopefully push his peers, and not even just his peers, but people with platforms, whether you're in music or wherever it may be, that has a voice to appeal to, the community, to the Black community, to go out and vote. And whether that be you go to a poll and vote, or whether you do mail-in votes, he's trying to get people to, educate themselves to do that. But he dropped this tweet first, to the masses, saying, "To my brothers and sisters in sports and arts, we have incredible influence in our community. We need to use this moment to demand change. I got to be honest. I struggle with what to demand because so damn much needs to change. But I'm starting with our fight to vote." Hence, More Than the Vote initiative right now. He then also followed that up with a dope video that was it was really breaking down the history and how far we've come from a Black community. It was Black people that were not even able to come close to attempting or trying to have an opinion or vote, to now where we are all at a point where we can vote, but still to an extent, like it's there, but there's an asterisk, and it shouldn't be that asterisk, which is what the whole More Than the Vote movement is about. So with this video that you're seeing, obviously, fortunately, we can't play the music, copyright issues. But with this video that you are seeing right here, he also dropped a tweet on top of it that said, "The easiest way to keep us from changing is to keep us from voting. As athletes, we stand on the shoulders of giants. We must continue their fight on behalf of our community. At More Than a Vote, hashtag Black Lives Matter." So I'm loving this. I really, 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 really hope that this all gets through. I've been making sure my younger brother, who's 20 years old, he's very aware of the situation. He's a very smart kid, and, but still, I just feel like, I'm making sure, like, with the people that are around me, my cousins and my, little brothers and stuff like that, like, you gotta, speak this, you gotta let them know, you gotta tell them to go do the research, go learn, go vote, because this is important, because, they're very upset and very angry right now, but this right here is a big part of the battle that we're going through right now for social justice, so shout out to LeBron for that. I'm loving this. We talked about Patrick Mahomes joining. We talked about Draymond Green was part of that. So hopefully this is something that will definitely garner change come we're in the midst of beginning of the election season. So here we are. That being said, staying within politics, kind of, sort of, Chad Ochocinco is out here doing what Trump is not really making up his mind on doing. Now, we know about the first round of stimulus checks that went around the nation, and now there was talks that there's supposed to be another set of stimulus checks to be coming around, but that is just going back and forth. No decision on when, if it's going to happen, blah, 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 blah. Chad Johnson said, enough. I'm taking this into my own hands. He posted a picture, if I can get that picture up, of his, he got a $245,000 balance that he's ready to give out as he's taking it into his own hands as a stimulus check to people who are in need of it. You saw, if you go on his Twitter with this post, you see a bunch of people that were talking about their situations and stuff like that. And so he's looking to take matters into his own hands. With this, he also tweeted, I'm giving out stimulus checks July 1st. If you have Cash App, since Trump want to keep playing games. And that's just Chad Johnson being Chad Johnson. I mean, we've seen this man throw $1,000 tips at restaurants. That's just the kind of guy he is. So I'm loving this, and we'll see how that goes when the 1st of July comes around. So shout out to Chad. And I want to wrap up, post up the only way that I know how. You give me a headline about one of my favorite players to ever grace a basketball court, I'm going to take the opportunity to give this man the attention he deserves. I'm talking about J.R. Smith. We talked about J.R. Smith and the possibility of him coming back to the league. And now, with the news of J.R. Smith possibly joining the Lakers and coming back, there is so much fodder for some of the great class memes in social media. So to end off post up today, we will be going through my favorite ones I saw on social media, starting with this simple one right here of LeBron James, the classic picture. But this time it is LeBron James and J.R. Smith with their little Mickey Mouse hats because they will be going to Orlando. This next one is hilarious. You see it's with J.R. Smith on his first day as a Laker, and he's a little confused. He's looking at a name and he's like, wait a minute, J.R. Smith, when he gets to the Lakers facility and he says, where did we get Giannis? Not knowing that's Costas, my guy. That's not Giannis. This is his little brother, but let JR believe what he want to believe. On to the next one. This one is great. We kind of talked about it earlier, but it's J.R. Smith and Dion Waiters on the same team. We need it. Shout out to the Photoshop of this man with the Henny on the court, and Dion Waiters ready for that action. I love it. So this is going to be hilarious. Beam team is going to be insane when if these two players end up being on the same team. And last but not least, this is me meshing two worlds, meshing J.R. Smith with Kendrick Perkins. This one says LeBron, yo, J.R., pass the ball. Meanwhile, J.R. Smith. Hey, yo, J.R. J.R.
Stop it right now.
JR.
Stop it right now.
JR. And my man was AD in the post. JR. He's like, oh, hold on. I've been out for too long. You got to see me go. Like, oh, man. I'm so excited about this. I really hope J.R. Smith is the one to replace Avery Bradley for the Lakers, but we will see. Right now, we're just saying he's at the top of the list, but we'll see what happens. But that is it for me.
It's funny
Got
because
all the jokes.
I asked Jackie if this was another meme moment waiting to happen, but no, the meme moment
it's already starting.
It's happening.
Yes.
All right, Jackie. So why don't you take us now into what we're not gonna do?
Okay, so I don't know if the internet jerked on your end, but I heard ricket. So that was the remix, y'all. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you hear the remix?
Yes,
The chair is creaking a lot right now. I don't know why.
Right. We got so many issues going on over here, y'all. But what we're not going to do is pretend like there's not a pandemic in place, right? We're not going to do that, right? Because right now, I just want to break down some numbers for you guys. So right now, we have 9.2 million confirmed cases worldwide. 2.39 million of those happen right here in the good old United States. 477,000 deaths worldwide. 123,000 of those were here in the United States. And we've seen a spike in cases everywhere. We're kind of getting an F on how we're handling this pandemic. But the NFL is taking a hands-off approach to how they're going to treat fans in the stadiums. They're saying that they're not going to implement rules. They're going to kind of go by state and county rules. We're going to touch on that more in Brit's take, so I'm not going to get too deep into that. But obviously, that has to be the right call in some cases because you can't do what the county won't let you do. But in other cases, like Florida, that they have no rules and they're seeing a huge spike, you kind of need to have some rules in place. Apparently, though, the NFL has discussed closing the door and not having any fans in the stands. But according to Daniel Kaplan of The Athletic, the NFL could lose about $3 billion if the regular season and playoffs are played in standless stadiums. So the NFL does pull in roughly about $8.1 billion per year. So if their numbers are right, they're looking at pulling in only $5 billion. They do have around $425 million in expenses. So that's still $4.5 billion in profits. I personally think it's worth it to ensure the safety, and clearly we're not handling this right, and we're seeing spikes that we shouldn't have, and people are getting tested more now, so we're more aware. But we'll talk more about that in Brit's Takes. Right now, I want to go into what I'm calling a movie remake, because I think in Dallas, they're trying to remake Django Unchained. And Jerry Jones is starring as Calvin, that was played by your boy, Leonardo DiCaprio, Devin, and auditioning for the role of Steven, which is Calvin's trusted mandatory servant. I'm giving that to Dallas Cowboy outside linebacker DeMarcus Lawrence. Now, I'm going to give him a slight pass because he's saying a message that he's really giving Jerry Jones a pass that I don't think he should give, but he's also echoing a sentiment that I've always said, and that as Black people, this fight really is up to us. But in the climate that we live in right now, we kind of have to know that change does move a little faster when we're all united for the same cause. So I don't really understand him giving Jerry Jones and his silence a pass. He had this really long tweet that he posted, so I'm not going to read it. He did have some strong sentiments in that long paragraph, but he specifically wanted to address Stephen A. Smith, who called him out on the same thing. Like, why are you giving Jerry Jones a pass? And he says, let's stop waiting on others to speak and let's be about change. That's my choice. Look down my timeline and you'll notice a common theme. Action, not just words. Funny that those actions weren't things First Take featured or talked about on the show, #Man of Action. Okay, he's right. He is a man of action, but he is missing the point, in my opinion. Jerry, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He's born again racist, and he has proven that time and time again. And then DeMarcus Lawrence, he kind of doubled down on his giving Jerry a pass thing. In an interview with the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, he said the whole situation has nothing to do with Jerry or anybody in Jerry's position. This is about coming together and focusing on how we can make change and how we can come together to be united. I don't see how one man in Jerry's position or any of those positions can make change. So if he cannot see how someone who is a mogul like Jerry Jones can impact this situation that we're in just by changing his personal stance, then he's clearly walking around with blinders on. And I am personally perplexed how not only him, but Black men on the Dallas Cowboys in general can't see that there is a problem with Jerry Jones' silence. So I appreciate Stephen A. Smith, who responded to this tweet. He said, over the years, I'm not questioning that, bro. This is about Jerry Jones and what power his words can wield. And if he doesn't want to exercise that, we have the right to know why, based on his history. I'm not saying what he should say, just that silence is completely unacceptable from him right now, DeMarcus Lawrence, period. I'm not going away on this, and neither should any Black man wearing a Dallas Cowboy uniform right now. Have a blessed day. I have zero arguments on that one because that is 100% true. I think as a Black community as a whole, we've neglected to do that. We have neglected to hold people accountable for their actions because we're scared of whatever. And I think now is the time for us to do that. Jerry has decades of proving who he is. And then now in 2020, in this climate, if he can't say anything, I think that's a bad move. And I think that the Black men on his team are now allowing him to do that. And I think DeMarcus Lawrence is wrong in absolving Jerry Jones of any responsibility for his silence. And I think it's shameful that the Black men on his team are doing that. And I think, quite frankly, it's embarrassing. I'm sure Britt has a lot to say about that, but I'm going to zoom past it because I do want to get to a really important topic because this is something that is near and dear to my heart. So for those of you who may not know, The Fumble Squad is working to raise money for the Equal Justice Initiative. It's an incredible nonprofit organization that provides legal representation to prisoners who may have been wrongly convicted of crimes, poor prisoners without effective representation, and others who may have been denied a fair trial. So for the next several weeks, we will be amplifying our voices here on the Fumble Live and share with you some of the many stories of wrongly convicted athletes, activists, and people alike in an effort to shed some light on something that's happening in our country every day. Some of those stories, the hands are just moving. Some of the stories you may know, others you may not know. Right. But we'll be telling you about different people each day, along with giving you videos sprinkled throughout the week so you can learn more. And today I want to tell you about Devontae Sanford. Now, this is a great example how people can get it right after things went very, very wrong. It's also an example of how wrong the justice system treats African-American, the community in general. And Devontae Sanford has been incarcerated for the murder of 4 people at a Detroit drug house. He was just 14 in September 2007, and police found him in his pajamas near a crime scene. After 2 days of interrogations, they announced that this 14-year-old kid had confessed to these murders. Now, if you've seen the documentary When They See Us, or you're like me and you watch a bunch of crime shows, you know the reality of those intense interrogations that produce false confessions, especially when it comes to minors. The crazy thing about this case is a hitman who was already in prison for entirely different murders had given police a detailed affidavit in March of 2015 saying that he was responsible for the homicides and that Devontae Sanford had nothing to do with it. And Devontae Sanford was sentenced to 37 to 90 years in those crimes. Pro bono attorneys with Northwestern Center on Wrongful Convictions of Youth and the Michigan Innocence Clinic at the University of Michigan Law, they took on Devontae Sanford's case. His attorney, David Moran, said, "Here's a 14-year-old kid who confessed to a crime he did not commit only after he had been interrogated repeatedly over the course of 2 days without an attorney present, without a parent present, and his confession didn't even make sense. It didn't even have all the details right. And even after the hitman confessed and gave all the right details about this case, it still took a little over a year for them to exonerate Devontae. Now, he's finally been released in 2016 at the age of 23. So that's a big chunk of your time to spend in prison for a crime you didn't commit just because you were scared and gave a false confession. So please take heed to this kind of story and help us make sure people like Devontae Sanford can get a fair shot at freedom, and donate right now. Everything that you donate is going to go help people just like Devontae get their freedom and get their life back. So with that, thank you very much for all of you guys that are out there donating, and let's pull Chris up onto the screen because it is time for blurry takes. No, I'm just kidding. Chris, you mad blurry. Here we go. It is time for Brit's takes.
Brit's takes.
All right, so like Jackie was saying, football is back, and in the best way ever, because originally we thought we were going to have football with no fans in the stands, but now we get fans in the stands, kind of. So the NFL announced that they will not place a capacity limit on attendance for teams. Teams can determine their own capacity. It's basically just going to be whatever the governor says is, or the mayor says for that area, and that's what it's going to be. So take Dallas, for instance, because I'm a Cowboys fan. So Dallas Cowboys, their normal capacity is 85,000, but they will be allowed to have a little, roughly half, because they're going to be allowed to have about 45,000 in the stadium come season start. So obviously it depends on the state regulations. Some stadiums could actually almost be at capacity, like Jackie was talking about in Florida. They don't really have any regulations there. So maybe some of those teams like Jacksonville and Miami and Tampa might have more fuller stadiums. And then obviously you can come to other places. California, I think, said that they're going to do about 25% to start and then move from there. But in technically starting, I believe, July 1st, fans can be in the stands at sporting events in California. This, I think, is going to be huge for home field advantage. Like, it is going to make a huge difference. Obviously, teams like the Chargers don't know what that feels like anyway, so they're not going to have anything to worry about. But there's going to be a lot of other teams, like in Seattle and stuff like that, who were one of the biggest teams to have a big, a bunch of cases of COVID-19 at the beginning, but they've dwindled down. I think that their state is still kind of being a little more conservative when it comes to what they're going to be allowed to do. So their stadium might be most affected because, Seattle's known for the 12th man. And I think that's going to be the biggest effect. To me, I personally I know we've talked about the NBA being in a bubble and what they have to do for the remainder of their season. And I know I've also talked about what coaches have came out and said in the NFL just with training camp and how it's just social distancing doesn't make sense in football. Like you can't have the lockers 6 feet apart and then go onto the field and be full contact sport. Like it just doesn't make sense. Plus with them not having a bubble, the players are going to end up like getting to do whatever they want to do during their off days or doing their time at home. Like they can hang out with who they want to, whatever their local governments say they can do as far as going to bars or whatever, the players are going to be allowed to do. So it makes no sense to not have fans in the stands if the players are in a bubble anyway and they're allowed to go mingle and hang out with whoever they want. Obviously, we saw with college football, they already are getting 30 plus players on teams that are, testing positive for COVID-19. So it's something that like either we have football or we don't have football. And if we have football, we might as well just have football. So that includes fans in the stands. So I'm with this because I believe if you don't want to go to the games, you don't have to go. Nobody's forcing you to go. And obviously I was watching TV, just like, learning more about like COVID-19 and stuff. And they said that this new second wind of people that we've been having is actually the average person that's tested positive is about 30 years old. So it's around 25 to 35 of the age of people that are testing positive because those are younger people. So they said we're going to see way less, deaths, way less people like in hospital beds and stuff like that. So because the older people and the people that are the ones that are mostly affected by it already know to either stay home or, practice social distancing or whatever the case is. And then obviously the younger group, which is actually not as, they won't have as many, issues with it as a whole, they're saying. Those people are the ones that are testing positive right now. So I think that's going to be the same thing we see at games. It's going to be a younger crowd, obviously, at games. There's not going to be a lot of older people there because they know that if they get COVID-19, it's more life-threatening to them than it is to, somebody who's 25, 26 years old. So I think for football, you just got to have it or not have it. And obviously for following the state regulations and city regulations and stuff or county regulations, I think it's going to be fine. I'm personally looking forward to going to football games. I will be in attendance at football games. I mean, I've gone to a million protests already, so why not go to football games? I still think everyone should wear masks, obviously. And then if you are attending events like this, I don't know any old people and I'm not around any old people, so I don't have to worry about passing it on to a parent or to a grandparent or whatever because I don't have any of that. So I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. But obviously, if you are in attendance of these things, I would say, quarantine yourself after the fact. I don't know. But Chris, are you going to be attending games this season? And do you think that it's right that the NFL kind of just puts it on team for team based on their own state regulations if they should have fans in the stands or not?
I mean, I think it makes sense to do it according to, like you said, the state regulations. I think that's the best idea for it. I'm okay with it. I think I'm more okay with it now than I was before. I just my fear is that people that do go to the games will still be ignorant to what is going on. So, like you said, you'll go, you'll have your mask on, you'll be smart about it. But I'm just worried about the majority following in those footsteps. But to answer the initial question, I would like to because I still want to go to one of the first games in Sophie Stadium because that's history. Yeah. So if this allows that, I'll probably try and go out to see one of those games, probably for the Chargers, not the Rams, because I hate the Rams. But I'm just more
play first game of the regular season. Just saying.
Let me know how that game goes, and I'll tell you what, I'll be rooting for the Cowboys that day too. But so I mean, I'll definitely be. If this goes through, I'll definitely try to go to one game. But I just hope that people are just smart about it, just like anything else that's going on right now while everything's opening back up. I have my mask on. I got my Knicks mask in the back. I'm ready for anybody, all the smoke. Anybody got something to say? So I have my mask on. I hope people just continue to be smart about it.
Well, Jackie, do you think that obviously in California they will be. I think it's going to be monitored to where it's like everybody has to have a mask on. They're going to obviously
Hopefully.
seat people a certain amount apart because the stadiums in California right now are only going to be at 25% capacity. So how do you think that is going to be able to be monitored? Is it going to be like you have to buy a seat like in the movie theater in the next seat, 5 seats down or whatever the case is? And then what happens with states like Florida where it's just going to be a all out crazy thing? Like, would you be comfortable going in California? Obviously, probably not in Florida though.
I mean, on one hand, I'm kind of like you because I've gone to a dozen protests now, so it'd be kind of pointless for me to say I'm not going to a game. But at the same time, every single year, even on the Fumble, we post videos of somebody getting beat up at a stadium. You know what I mean? And I think that's what we're going to see. There's no way you're going to be able to enforce it. It's going to be hilarious to me when I see somebody snatch their mask off and just go to town on somebody. So there's going to be no way that you can regulate this. And, I get that we're seeing a spike in testing because now everyone is getting tested. But then I also saw DL Hughley passed out on stage the other day and he was asymptomatic. And now he says, oh, by the way, passing out is a symptom, so right. I live in Hollywood and people are right. Yeah. So I live in Hollywood where people are just kind of it's nasty here. It's dirty. It's nasty. It's filthy. So, I've kind of turned into a slight germaphobe because when we were in deep quarantine, Hollywood was so beautiful. And now I see people out, they're coughing, hawking loogies on the ground and then I don't know if I want any parts of that, to be honest with you. I've seen too much and I don't know if I want to be sitting in a stand. I mean, if they do it like you say, where it's me and maybe if we come as a group, that's the one thing. I think if you come as a group, you should be able to sit as a group. And then if there's like a couple of seats away from some people, then that would be fine. But yeah, I think I'm a walk in a tent though. I'm gonna walk in some sort of plastic bubble. Don't touch me. It's me and my group just gonna walk to our seat and sit down. I don't know. It's a weird time for me because the more we come out of quarantine, the more I'm like, oh God, people are gross. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm at with it.
Yeah. Really quick, Devin, do you think that if the NFL happens, because they're some teams are going to be all out, fans in the stands, like full capacity almost. Obviously, some states are going to be a little bit more conservative on that aspect. But do you think them starting the season like this and say something happens with getting there's 600, 700, 800, 1,000 people that test positive after going to a game? Do you think that it's more detrimental to do it this way and then possibly have to cancel the season in the middle of the season if something like that happens? Or do you think that they'll just keep continuing as is, just expecting that, oh, well, you came to the game at your own risk, we're not canceling the season, or we're not going to change it up later on? Like, do you think it's okay for them to kind of just go out like this at the beginning, or should everybody be more conservative at the beginning of the season?
I personally think that everybody should be more conservative at the start of the season. I think that getting back to normal life needs to happen in baby steps just to protect the public health and, the safety of everybody. I think that if they crowd these stadiums and they have fans that are shoulder to shoulder and they do get this huge spike in new cases and they can trace it back to these NFL games, I think it will be detrimental to the season. I think that it would cause them to, go on hiatus like the NBA did, or cancel the season altogether, or make some drastic mid-season change where they decide, in the middle of it that they're going to ban people from being able to go at all. I think that's going to cause a lot of backlash. So I feel like it would be better for everybody, for the entire country, if all of these public gatherings went slowly. But obviously that's not what's happening. We've seen that with bars. We've seen that with restaurants. We've now seeing it with games. So I don't know. I'm definitely nervous about it. I think that it's a move that could have a negative effect. I don't know.
Well, do you see yourself attending any games this season?
Gosh, that's so hard to say. Like right now I'm thinking about it and it seems a little sketchy unless I can guarantee that there won't be anybody within 6 feet from me. But then again, I'm going to Chargers games most likely, and just naturally I'm going to
anyway.
Yeah, you're going to be fine. You specifically will be fine, Devin. It's the rest of the world.
I know we have like very
that's what I'm saying.
Worry about compared to other stadiums, because like Dallas will be at 50%, and again Florida will be at close to 100. But we're kind of starting, I guess, more conservatively, considering we will have fans in the stands at 25%. But yeah, I'm interested to see how this season goes. And I wonder if they end up doing, if something like this happens halfway through, maybe it's more manageable to do a halfway season. We're going to do a bubble, then, oh, we're doing a bubble from the beginning of the season. So I think that they want to just like apologize later. Like, you know, it's like, I'll ask for forgiveness later. And then mid-season, when it's more manageable to make all the players stay in one area, if it gets to that point, I think they'll do that. But I think they don't want to do that at the beginning, because you can't have a 17-week season with everybody sitting in one little bubble. They can't make the players do that. So I think that's why they're not doing it right now. But I think that they might have a plan to do that come mid-season, at least, if something like this kind of goes out of control. But I'm trying to be at a football game, but I'm not going to be at a football game in Florida. I will say that.
I know. I was supposed to go to New Orleans this year. I was so excited about that, but now I'm like, first of all, Drew ruined it. Second of all, I don't even know.
So many.
And like in freaking Mercedes-Benz, it's a Superdome, so it's a closed in, so you're not even getting fresh air.
Right.
So that's even worse.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Cesspool.
I'm gonna be like Bubble Boy. Y'all remember that kid that used to live in a bubble? That's how I'm going to games. I'll be Bubble Boy.
All right, you guys. Well, on that lovely visual of Jackie being Bubble Boy, once the games start, let's wrap up this show. We're going to be back again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Make sure you subscribe, tap the bell, leave a comment below, share this video with your friends. You know the drill. We're going to be talking about Equal Justice Initiative again tomorrow, so get ready for that. And also wash your hands, stay safe, wear a mask, be a good person, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.
Ooh, yeah. Damn it. Forgot again.
You did it.